Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 412 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your very proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight on what is going to be a big, very big day of racing this Saturday. It is the Belmont Stakes 2025 run, of course, at Saratoga Racetrack, and we're here to discuss a fantastic all-graded stakes late pick 5 that ends in the Belmont Stakes. It's actually not their very late pick 5. It's races 9 through 13, but it does end with the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes, which should be an absolute throwdown on Saturday. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, notification bell on the top right, and smash that like button, that thumbs up button below the video player. We would greatly appreciate it. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have a fantastic tip sheet as well. Look below the video player for information. It's inexpensive. It's very profitable. We've got Del Mar meets coming up. Saratoga main meet is coming up in a little over a month. Now is a great time to purchase our Power Pick tip sheets, which come out on Saturdays. And for those of you that are a part of Team HHH, you'll be receiving a special tip sheet this Saturday for Belmont Stakes Day. You can find a lot about all that information on our fantastic website, hhhracingpodcast.com. And finally, we are very proud to have a Delphi Racing Club as the sponsor of the HHH Racing Podcast. You get in touch with Delphi Racing by getting in touch with Matt Cuter, who's the racing manager. You see it on the bottom of the screen. For those of you that are listening, the website is Adelphi Racing, one word, adelphiracing.com. And Matt Cuter's email is matt@adelphiracing.com, one word. They took a little bit on the chin today as we had two runners, and one of them I personally had a piece of in Gentleman 10 in the Mohawk, but very difficult spot today. They've got runners occurring all week long as well throughout the country. Actually, two tomorrow, one at Saratoga, one at Evangeline, and then one at Monmouth that I all have pieces of, ownership pieces of. So I'm very excited to see them all run. Let me go ahead and bring on my co-host for tonight. We got a little bit of a change in plans based on one of our fantastic co-hosts literally working. So let me first bring on from the East Coast of Maryland, Pete Visco, and subbing in tonight for Paul Halloran. Paul is doing yeoman's work at Saratoga as we speak here as we're filming Wednesday night. But Paul and Ryan Anderson, actually co-host of Pacific Horse Players, they're both in Saratoga. But Paul's doing some work. He might be able to join us later tonight, but to substitute in for him, not just your normal substitute, it is from the Ohio State University still, as he's going to be starting law school in the fall, co-host of Bet and Boozin', Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, we already had the first day of Belmont Festival Stakes Week. Looked like Speed's playing pretty well, Pete, on the turf and the dirt. We'll see if that continues. How are we doing tonight?
Well, it is New York racing, so that's expected. Charlie, that's not so good for all the closers I assume you and I will be picking tonight. Hopefully we can even the track out a little bit by the end of the week.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the good news is today I actually reluctantly didn't play too many horses that were coming from off the pace, which made today pretty profitable for me. But I do agree with you, Pete. As we get to some of these higher quality races, I'm banking on some of the closers that I like having enough class. And I'm hoping that maybe because the Wednesday card races aren't quite as strong, that was part of the lack of closing. But we'll have to see how fair the track is.
In all fairness, there were some bombs, but really, I mean, the horses that won were speed horses in general. So I'm not ready to say the track has any bias. I know people are going to think that. I'm not so sure that's the case, guys. We'll see as the week goes along. We got a lot of people in here. We got Katie is all ready to go. Terry Frank says hello. Let's see who else in the chat. Oh, look who's here. Miss Roscoe, Kyle's not here, playing bingo and listening to the podcast. Hi, Mr. Roscoe. Hi, Sherry. How are you? But Kyle is not here. He's actually taping a show right now, but maybe Kyle will jump in later. But we always appreciate when Kyle's mom is in the chat. Tom Espinoza is here. Hello, everyone. Ralph Conti is here, representing the Italian Stallions out on the East Coast, especially New Jersey. We had Mark Bogaz is here, one of the best racing days. Looking forward to the show. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for joining the show. Matt Miller is here. Matt is going to be highly involved in this weekend from a betting standpoint. Here's a name I don't think we've seen much of. David Jaffe. What's up, David? Thanks for joining the show. Love the podcast, guys. Amazing info. Any of you guys up at Saratoga this weekend? Yes, as I said, David, we are not going to be there, obviously, but Paul Halloran and Ryan Anderson are representing the podcast up there this weekend. Thanks for joining the show. Oh boy, here we go. Here we go, Pete. It's going to rain, maybe. Way to play. What's up, T? What? We'll talk about that very briefly because Paul's on here, so I might get away with it. Ed Burke is here. Greetings, Spot Time. Gary Coloroso. We got a lot of people. Roshan is here. Gary Rice. Let's see. We got Ryan Anderson's here from the Gallop Out. That is his own podcast that he runs with Jackson Muniz. Just got back to the hotel. You all need another co-host. No, we're good, Ryan. But if you want to join in, you're more than welcome. Ryan, I'll tell you what. Send me a text, or you can just put in the. Actually, you know what, Ryan? Here's what we'll do. I will. I'm going to email you the link right now, Ryan. Because I think you have it, and if you'd like to join us, you can. So, anything that happened today, or Pete and Charlie's, I'm going to go ahead and email Ryan that you guys are looking forward to from this weekend in general.
Go ahead, Charlie. You were paying attention today too, right?
So, can you repeat the question?
Anything you're looking forward to? Any horse in particular that you're looking to see this weekend, Charlie? Any race? Anything stand out?
Oh, for
other
sure.
than the obvious, the Belmont.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the Woody Stevens. I think it's the most wide open and potentially the most talented race that we're going to have this weekend. I also have a horse that I have a big personal interest to that we'll get to later in the field. So that's certainly a race I'll be keying in on. I'm also excited for the Grade 2 Wonder again. I'm excited to see Al Jafar make the return, as well as Mayday Ready.
Yes.
Just two horses that have, done well for me. So I'm excited to see those come back. I'd say those are the two races on Saturday in particular, outside the big ones that, maybe wouldn't typically be on the radar for me. And then Friday, obviously, I'm very excited to see She Feels Pretty return, as well as when we covered on our show, I had the hot take that I picked against Good Cheer. So I'm very excited to see Shred the Nar make her return, as I picked her on top.
I was going to give you some props when I saw that, but I forgot to comment. I'm with you. That's my pick too. So we can go down swinging together on that one.
Absolutely.
I wanted to see if there's a new feature that doesn't seem to be working as well as I was hoping. So anyway, we're all good at something with the comments. And if you're still listening, Ryan, I just emailed you the link. So Ryan Anderson from Coast of Pacific Horse Players, and of course of his own show, The Gallop Out, and on ABR, he might be joining us as well. Guys, let's go ahead and get started. Again, this is the late. Well, I keep saying late pick 5. It's the pick 5, the all grade stakes pick 5. It's the big one, guys. That goes from race 9 to 13. It ends in the Belmont. We'd love your comments in the chat. Please keep them going as we go along. Andy McVeigh, look, we've had so many new people join us last year or two, Pete. It's awesome. I love seeing new people in the chat. Andy, welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast chat room. Happy Belmont Week. Appreciate it. Good luck to everyone. Let's just say it right now very quickly. I looked at the latest weather. It's going to be great until looks like maybe small chance of rain tomorrow. Probably not, though. Looks like Friday later in the day, in the evening, and then into the early morning Saturday. It's going to rain. Doesn't look like it's going to rain a lot during the race day itself. Maybe at the end of the day, Friday. They are going pretty late, guys, on Friday. Going to I think 7:15 local. So might get some rain later today, Friday. Rain early Saturday morning. They're not all these turf races. The graded stakes are going to stay on the turf. Maybe they're going to have to take something off. We'll see. I doubt it. Again, just watch the weather forecast. We'll see what happens. It's not going to be nearly as bad as it was for Churchill. It sure doesn't look that way, or Pimlico for that matter. All right, guys, let's get into it. We're going to start with the Jiper. So let me go ahead and bring on the screen to start the late pick 5 this Saturday at Saratoga for the Belmont Stakes. Here it is right there. Race 9 is the Jaipur, about 408 Eastern. Again, it's a grade 1, $500,000 is the purse, 5.5 furlongs, 3-year-olds and up. Pretty big favorite here, and that's going to be a little bit of a theme, guys. There are some pretty heavy favorites, Pete and Charlie, and I'm curious to see what you guys are doing and what people at home think. Let me go ahead and take this banner off the screen. The number 2 for training on Michael Stidham. That's a guy that Charlie and I know very well. A very talented trainer from the Chicago area originally. Had some big years at Arlington. Really is a very good trainer. Ben Curtis is the jock, 6-5 on Think Big. Let's see where we're going to go right now as I'll bring up our picks. I'm going to go 2-4-9. I'm going to chalk out. Pete's going 9-2-3, and Charlie's going 9-2-4. So both of you guys are going to go with AG Bullet. Pete, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. I think you picked AG Bullet last time at Churchill. I was very much against him. I happened to be right that day. I could easily be wrong on Saturn. You may be right. Why don't you talk about AG Bullet, Baltus, Pratt, second off the layoff? I would assume you're hoping the rain does not come for AG Bullet.
Yeah, that would be ideal because doesn't necessarily seem to like the wet. But you would have been wrong last time anyway. If he gets through on the rail, I should say. Damn, first race, first horse already misgendering.
Wow.
If she gets through on the rail, she was going to win anyway. But
really,
I like that race a lot more than she was just boxed in. She didn't get the best of tripped. I didn't even like I wasn't even sure of the ride, but she just didn't have anywhere to go. So that's one thing I like. The distance, she usually goes a little further, but in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, she ran super, she took the lead actually and lost to Starlust and Motorious, who would be right at the top of this race if they were in it. And then the last thing I kind of like, aside from, I always love when you get a switch to Pratt, not like, Rispoli is fantastic, but I always love having Pratt. Especially on the turf. And the thing that I love also, this one's now second off the layoff, and she's basically she's won every race second off the layoff. So she's also won a little bit first off, but she's won every single race second off the layoff. So maybe she's just the kind of horse who needs that one underneath her, and then she could come out the second time. So Charlie, I don't know, you're with me. Anything else you like about AG Bullet?
No, you pretty much stole my thunder.
Sorry, man.
No, it's all good. Good minds think alike. No, I was also on AG Bullet last time out. Was actually one of my best bets in a rare time in a turf sprint where I actually had a strong opinion last time. I thought she was, when they were getting ready for turn to home, I already saw she was having a little trouble and wasn't really getting clear space, but I just kept thinking, okay, off this turn, either the rail's going to open or Spoli's just going to send like hell through that turn and get through on the rail and is going to win for fun. Or if he doesn't think the rail's there, then he's just going to go to the outside, not all the way to the outside, obviously, but, go in between horses and then win for fun. Instead, the answer was go to the rail not open, keep waiting, rail never open, get pinched, get stuck. And then after that, after finally England run into more trouble again, and just ultimately never actually get out. So, I think just builds off that performance. Like you said, second time out, also gets Pratt aboard. I again, like you said, I think Rispoli is a fine jockey. I just think there's a difference between, getting a fine jockey and getting the best jockey in the country. I think AG Bullet is going to take a big step here. And also, I just cannot pick a 6-5 horse in the turf sprint. I won't do it.
I hear you guys for sure. I have this one third. She's definitely better than she was last time. But you know what, guys? I don't know if you feel this way, Pete, with mares especially. When they don't come back great, I'm always slightly concerned they just want to be a mama, and you can't base it off of one race. I just want to make the point that with colts, I don't usually, or males, I don't think about that, obviously. But with mares, sometimes I do. My other concern, Pete, is what kind of trip is Flavin going to work out? Because Coppola is directly to her outside. I do not like when the major speed is outside a speed horse. I like because they can easily hook up, and or AG Bullet could be wide. I mean, you never know. But what kind of trip do you envision here for AG Bullet to win the race?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing AG Bullet sit off. I mean, I think in the Breeders' Cup, she showed she can sit off and close. And I even think last time she was basically sitting behind horses. And like Charlie said, I think if she gets through, she wins the race, which is funny because Queen Maxima came back with a 97 buyer. If AG Bullet wins that race and gets a 97, we're looking at her completely different. So I think she can sit off and maybe just I trust Pratt. Pratt's not going to hook up with this horse. Pratt's going to probably let Coppola go, try and get a spot, and then I think attack afterwards. But yeah, I wouldn't mind sort of that spot there. So I'll take first over like that.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a threat. I think there's enough speed in the race, and anyone that watches this show knows that I am not afraid to try to beat big favorites. In fact, I enjoy doing it. But when there's a favorite that I just think is just best, I'm going to go with it. And I believe that Think Big is just in incredible form right now for Stidham and Ben Curtis. He's learned to be a little more tactical. I mean, it was a little bit of a slower pace last time at Churchill, and he was like more mid-pack than further back from the last two. But he's just really good right now. I have no reason to go against this 4-year-old who just could easily continue to improve. And with the one firing from the inside extendo, or you'd think, it just feels like Think Big. All he has to do is find a little bit of room in the stretch, and he's just a likely winner. I'm just not going to get too cute on the front end. Where I'm going to get a little bit cute here is for second. My Boy Prince is a interesting 4-year-old for me, for Mark Casse, who did have a winner today. This is a horse second off the layoff, who I always thought was talented and was really good on Sin, is now transforming that efforts to turf. And what I like a lot, guys, about any horse is when they start doing something different and they do it well. This horse really wasn't a sprinter. In fact, he's only been 5.5 once. It actually ran okay last year at Keeneland, going 5.5. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was his first start as a 3-year-old. That race wasn't fantastic that My Boy Prince won, but I like the fact that he did it close to the lead. I think he sits a tactical trip here. And if something happens with the favorites, underneath, especially the 9, I think My Boy Prince is really interesting. Probably more to fill out your underneath plays rather than win. But if he wins and he upsets, I wouldn't be 100% shocked. You guys don't agree. Actually, Charlie, you got this 1/3.
Yeah, no, I think My Boy Prince is interesting. I think a lot of what you said, I echo. I was looking for upside, and like I touched on earlier, I'd like to try to go a little price shopping if I can in a race like this, where I think turf sprints are really tough, and unless I really, which I obviously with the way you feel about Think Big, unless I really feel strong like that, I like to try to find value, and I think My Boy Prince is value. Like you said, trying something new, didn't really know how that was going to go. Thought at the time when I had watched that race. It was a weird spot, but obviously Mark Casse, who's one of the best trainers in the world, knows a lot more than me. And also, the fact that was first off a layoff, trying something new like that, and that it worked out. I thought that was a very aggressive, confident move. And I'm guessing that, with how the horse was working, he saw it. And that also goes into another thing I liked. Is just if you look at the work tab, I understand the very last workout heading into this race was, nothing special, but before that there was a lot of speed in those works, which to me just showed that Casse was trying to work enough speed in this horse to have My Boy Prince ready to become more of a sprinter. And like you said, tried it for the first time, it worked. I think obviously at 5.5 here now probably won't be on the lead, but could sit a nice stalking trip. Not impossible.
Ryan Anderson joins us from Saratoga. Ryan, today we're live here Thursday at right now 8:20 Eastern, or sorry, Wednesday. I keep thinking Thursday, people. We're on Wednesday this week. Sorry, everyone. We are live Wednesday right now at 8:20 Eastern. Ryan, tell the whole world your first ever experience at Saratoga was today. What'd you think, my friend?
Man, Saratoga was awesome. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I don't have my typical mic with me, but Saratoga was amazing. I brought the San Diego weather out to the East Coast today. It was about 8,500 degrees. I was sweating the entire day, but had a blast. Obviously, great racing. Got to watch a few from the roof. Got to watch a few from the side, from trackside. Toured myself around. Got in the paddock for a few races. Was there prior to the race day and watched, the likes of Good Cheer, Sovereignty, Hill Road, Rodriguez, all school in the paddock. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, nothing major, but no, a great day out there. Easily in my top 3 for racetracks. Always tough to beat the home track of Del Mar. Keeneland was beautiful in the spring, but Saratoga might be climbing the ranks here pretty soon.
Is there anything in particular you really enjoyed about your first time there? Is there some aspect of the track that stood out to you very quickly? We'll get back to our handicapping.
Yeah, it wasn't the Wilson shoot, but the rest of the racetrack, just every part about it was just gorgeous. The hedge, just all of it was, it was historical, obviously, but just, looking at Saratoga, watching it in person is a different feeling than watching, the simulcast and everything online.
Do you go to the backyard and have a drink from the Big Red Spring?
I did. That felt like a bit of an initiation type of thing. And hey, California tap water is it's no worse. So I handled it like a pro.
I have video of our good friend Noah Maher taking his first drink from the Red Spring. His face told it all. Not pretty. If you've done it, ladies and gentlemen at home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, let's get on to. Your pick for the Jaipur real quick, Ryan. Top 3 in 5-second comment.
Yeah, it was 285. It wasn't super creative on top.
Okay.
Think Big should have lost last time, but managed to still close with a ferocious kick down the lane. They were not going fast, as you mentioned. In second, I took Alagon, Jose Ortiz for Edward Allard aboard. Okay. I like that comeback race last time, going 6 furlongs in the Elusive Quality Stakes. Closed decently. That track was a little speed favoring, but gets a jockey upgrade from Rodriguez. And then Arzak, familiar name, obviously, but the winning type, always kind of tries hard. Didn't love the comeback race in the Shakertown, but I think he can improve off of it. Should probably get a firm turf course still by Saturday. I know maybe good listed. I don't know. The rain. I'm not going to play weatherman. I'll leave that to you three.
You know what I love about this show.
Sorry, you two, not you.
Oh, no, I'm not a weather guy. That's just Howard. That's all Howard.
All right, just Howard then.
What I love about this show, I mean, I've talked about how much we're a family. Paul said he probably was going to be able to come on. I said, absolutely no problem. I last second checked to see if anyone else could come on. Charlie came to sub on. Ryan wants to come on. Now look who's here. Paul Halloran from Saratoga. I thought you'd be like, obviously different hotel situation for Paul and Ryan. Paul, thanks for being able to join the show. Really appreciate it. We just talked about the Jaipur. I'm not going to show our picks on the screen for Ryan and Paul. They will just say them verbally. Give me your top 3, Paul, in the Jaipur, and 10-second opinion. Is it Think Big, or it could be someone else?
Yeah, I'm going to chalk out here, I'm afraid. I tried to beat Think Big in the Churchill race, and that didn't work out that well for me. So I'm going to go with the fool me once theory. I think this is a fairly competitive field, but not the strongest field ever. And I just think this horse is in really good form. And I think AG Bullet, who you did not like, Howard, last time, to your credit, ran horrifically last time.
Well, according to Pete, if she had gotten through, she would have won. I'm going to respectfully disagree, but that's okay.
That's comical to me because it was
an
easy
Paul
win
with the eye roll.
Group.
That was a small eye roll from Paul there, Pete. Did you see that?
I mean, she would have won, Pete?
Well, she would have at least given herself a shot to win. I mean, you never know who's going to actually win when they're bobbing down the lane, but she would have been in the mix for sure.
Who knew that Rispoli would get a horse in tight, Pete?
I mean, when I was watching the replay, Paul, I was like, well, this looks familiar to me. Maybe she's not journalism. That's the problem. But, other than that.
Few are.
All right. We should mention before we go on, I listen, we're live. We're on Thursday nights, ladies and gentlemen, for those of us that are new for the Picks and Ponies show, but we're going Wednesday to give everyone more time to handicap. We do not have great race plays on tonight, obviously, because it's Wednesday. Great race plays, which covers the Saturday to Sunday late pick 4, will be on tomorrow night. But Paul, I do want to mention something. I think it's important to mention before we forget, guys. Miguel Clement got his first win ever in the very last race. He's not, listen, I know him well. We're not like good friends. I don't want to over exaggerate my relationship with Miguel. He trains a bunch of the horses along with Christoph, God rest his, soul, for Adelphi. I almost shed a tear. I'm an emotional guy. It was, he tried to keep it together. He actually did a pretty good job on air of doing it. I'm sure he'll have his moments later tonight with his family, Paul, but you were within feet of Miguel Clement as he was watching the race on TV just outside the pack. Can you give us a 1-minute synopsis of the last race and the emotions that you saw from Miguel Clement and his family?
Yeah, right where Ryan was with me in that same spot earlier today, right at the TV, right across from the Jim Dandy bar where Christoph used to watch races all the time. And oddly enough, and ironically, I watched Miguel watch the last 2 races and watched him kind of, when it became apparent that Silver Skillet was not going to get there, just kind of shook his head, but had one foot stomp and got that horse to the wire in the last race. It was a pretty emotional scene. I was off today. I wasn't supposed to be there till later, but Bob Mullins, who's here with me, he got out early, and we managed to hit the last 3 races. And I had a beer and was enjoying myself. But when that happened, I just, it's kind of in my blood. I had to go to work, and I think you'll enjoy the story in tomorrow's special. I had a chance to talk to Mrs. Clement one-on-one for about 2 or 3 minutes before other reporters came on the scene, and she was absolutely outstanding. She was emotional yet composed. She had really great things to say about the fight that Christoph waged.
The old hotel internet got Paul.
Yep.
Looks like. I'm sure he'll jump back in.
I'm waiting to get got by it myself, if I'm being honest.
Paul writes for the Saratoga special. You can check out his articles on, I think this is horseracing.com, I'd like to say.
Yes.
I think so. I'm going to take Paul off the screen until he figures out.
Paul looks like he's ready to rant right there.
Yeah,
That's,
Paul,
that's
if
his
you can hear us,
face. Yeah.
Paul, if you can hear us, you froze up. So we'll get Paul back on. He's back on.
Yep.
Paul, you can hear us there?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that.
Where can people find the article tomorrow, Paul?
Online, it'll be at the Saratoga special, which is thisishorseracing.com.
There you go.
And,
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought quick, then we'll go to the next.
I was just saying that she told me that it was Christoph's grand plan to one day become Miguel's assistant,
Wow.
So it was pretty good. And Bob Mullins was kind enough to indulge me as we ate dinner at Pennell's, and he ate and I ate and wrote an 1,100-word story so I could get that out of the way.
Terrific. Well, Paul, you've seen your share of emotional moments at the track. Some great, some not so much, but that was definitely bittersweet in the last race today, Wednesday at Saratoga. Okay, guys, let's go to the next race. Second leg, Pennine Ridge, grade 3 on the turf, mile and 16th, restricted 3-year-olds. Big, heavy favorite, morning line, number 1, Zulu Kingdom. He's won 2 in a row for Chad and Flavian. He's a Ridgeling. He's got the rail. A lot of things to like here. Let's see where we're going. Again, we will get Ryan's and Paul's top 3 also. I'm going 4-1-3. Pete and Charlie are chalking out. Pete's going 1-2-4. Charlie's going 1-7-3. Charlie, I'll let you go first to talk about the very likable Zulu Kingdom. I got to just say off the start, he is the horse to beat, but 6-5 to me seems a little bit low in my opinion. What do you like about Zulu Kingdom, sir?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And actually, as someone who has been one of the very proud leaders of the Zulu Kingdom Hate Club, I have finally come over to the other side. I can't keep betting against this horse. I mean, for me, the way I just saw was you're constantly getting short prices. You're constantly getting high 70, low 80 type performances, not just on, paper what the buyer says, but visually. And this horse keeps just narrowly winning and doesn't look all that good. It just looks like Pratt's pulling off masterclass after masterclass. And then I got stuffed in a locker because Zulu Kingdom sent a message and made it loud and clear that, there is actually some ability there. And it's not just Pratt working his, dark magic voodoo to get all these wins. And he looked absolutely the part in the American turf. And while I do agree, I think 6-5 is too short of a price to take. I also think Zulu Kingdom is one of the most likely winners of the weekend. I think this field's particularly weak. I don't really see anyone who holds a candle to him. I fully expect him to romp in this race and would be surprised if he doesn't otherwise. And who knows, maybe I'm just the curse for him. And now that I'm finally coming around to him, he'll end up proving me wrong again, but the other way and drop an egg. But I just don't see that happening. These big weekends, Chad and Flavian, again, just looks overwhelmingly the best horse on paper. And I'm not going to get cute here. I think we saw a different side of him last time.
Pete, the last 2 trips. Now, look, the people always say, well, they got a perfect trip. And Pete, you and I have talked about this for 4.5 years. Some of these horses make their own trips, right? The reason why he's getting good trips is because he's tactical and forward. That being said, he has worked out 2 great trips. And I got to tell you, I don't think the American turf, I know it was a grade 1. I don't think that field was anything special. And to me, he's facing 2 horses that he has not faced yet that are threats. But talk about why you like Zulu Kingdom.
Yeah, no, I'm not as super confident as Charlie is. I think Zulu Kingdom is by far the likeliest winner, and I did like that race a little more because I agree with Charlie where I thought in that last race, regardless of whether you think what you think of the field, I just thought the way he finished and the way he sort of pulled away and he looked like the winner. Whereas in the other races, everything was always a struggle. Whereas there, it looked like he was maybe coming into his own and he was really feeling himself. And again, when you go back to trips, when you have Pratt and you have a horse who's tactical, again, you're probably going to get a trip more often than not. And I think he can sit sort of just a perfect sort of pocket trip, and then Pratt works his magic. I don't think he's unbeatable, but I think he's super likely as a winner just because of he's got so many factors going his way. He likes the distance. He's won over the track. He's got the best jockey. He's got a good post. I think everything's in his favor. Doesn't guarantee win, but I think it all looks pretty good for him.
I'm going to question this buyer a little bit, guys. The buyer seems high. So we're supposed to believe the Zulu Kingdom improved 8. The third place finisher improved almost 10. The Bibago improved 24. Like, everyone just improved. But then Scipio and Megalodon came back and ran. I guess how they've been running. I don't know, guys. The 90 seems high to me. I can't remember what the time form is. Pete, if you want, I'm looking up the time form from Zulu Kingdom's last race, I'd appreciate it.
114.
I don't know.
It's 114, so it's actually the time form's even higher, basically.
It is
so
slightly higher. Yep, slightly higher. I just I don't know. I mean, I like Zulu Kingdom, but I'm going to go a different direction here, guys, and I'll get Paul and Ryan will get your opinions too. You know, Flying Mohawk. We know what happened to Flying Mohawk, right, Paul? Tell everyone what happened to Flying Mohawk. 3 initials, I believe.
Yes, yeah, he was very ill. He came down with Derby fever syndrome, DFS.
Yes.
Actually, the horses don't come down with it. It's typically the human connections that come down with it. And they have a horse that's just like this really good, well-bred for turf horse by Caraconte out of a Twirling Candy mare. And they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run this horse on dirt with a pit stop in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, which is an extremely weak race. Anyway, he's back where he belongs.
There. I mean, Final Gambit acquitted himself very well in the Derby, right? I mean,
he didn't run well in the Derby.
No, but Final Gambit did, is my point.
Final Gambit did. I would agree with that, yes. I would be concerned, Howard, and you picked this horse, so you could talk about him. I think a horse being screwed up mentally out of lack of a more medically proficient term is a real thing, and that could be in play here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but don't think that it doesn't happen, because it does.
I'm not going to question that. I don't love Dettori either. He's just not what he used to be. Obviously, he's capable of winning any turf race in the world, but I like the fact they got blinkers on Ryan here, and I think he'll be more forwardly placed like he was a little bit earlier in his career. But he's a professional racehorse, and he has not faced Zulu Kingdom. And I just think if anyone's going to upset Zulu Kingdom, it's this one, Ryan. I don't know what your opinion is, but that's mine.
I'm very against Flying Mohawk. I to Paul's point, it was.
Well, Ryan, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you.
See you later. No, Paul brought up a great point, and that the Derby, if you lose by a lot, it can discourage a horse, and maybe they need a race or two to kind of bounce back into things. But I don't typically love trusting a horse that ran poorly, and I know he's not meant for dirt, so I'm willing to kind of forgive the dirt try because he's clearly better on turf. But I need to see that he bounces back, emotionally from a loss in the Derby like that, because, you're sitting on go the whole race. You're in an environment that's very unique, and you only run it really once in your career. So I would just want to see how he comes out of it. And to your point, I don't love Dettori on board. And the last thing that I don't like about it is that he's going to have to outclose Zulu Kingdom, and Zulu Kingdom's going to get the jump on him. And I just don't think you're going to be able to do that. Zulu just seemed to kind of really turn the tables. I'm going to take a shot in second with the 10-13 Colonies. Very, very much an outlier after just breaking his maiden. But, Umberto in the saddle. Umberto's had, his share of ballsy rides in these Triple Crown races, aside from on journalism. So I'll give him a shot to maybe round out the exacta and spice things up. But I think, the Think Big to Zulu Kingdom double that I'm going to play on Saturday is going to be massive. I think both of those horses are very likely winners. I think Zulu Kingdom's the most likely of the weekend, or of the day, I should say.
I'm going to push back slightly, and then we're going to move on, guys, with something you said, Ryan. 13 Colonies, by the way, I really liked at Keeneland and had that horse. As you know, we were there that day. Now is the time to be Flying Mohawk, because if he runs well and either finishes a close second or wins, you're not going to get the 9-2 on him next time. You're going to get 6-5. So I think, although I'm not going to disagree with what you and Paul are saying, I think if you want to strike while the iron is hot, Pete, now's the time to do it on Flying Mohawk. There is one other horse quickly, 2 horses I want to mention. AP Kid is a horse I know you're a little bit interested in. Pete, I looked at this horse very carefully. I don't like the break from May 3rd to May 24th. And just let you know the reason, there is a reason for that. And to show everyone, if you have DRF, one of the great things, if you hit that statistics button and go down to scratch board, you can see, and I'm going to make it bigger here, just 1 second. It's a little bit small, but you can see AP Kid here about midway down the screen. That was a scratch. It was an off the turf race. So the race, there's nothing wrong with him. The race was just scratched off the turf. I liked his Gulfstream race, and he's got some early speed. He's a little bit interesting. And States Rights, Paul, is a horse that we talked about last night who got a brutal trip against Macero, who didn't break in the Churchill race and basically was eased. But I think States Rights interesting. I guess my main point here overall, Pete, and I'll let you finish here, is although Zulu Kingdom might be the likely winner, I think there's horses like AP Kids, States Rights, and Flying Mohawk that he has not faced that are very good horses.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it was a little tougher. I was actually almost looking for the 2 or the 4 on top. I just thought Zulu Kingdom just made the most sense. And when you look at it, he looks like the most likeliest winner. But yeah, I don't think it's, if I'm playing the pick 5, he's not a single to me. I'll say it that way. That's probably the easiest way to say it. I don't look at him as a single, especially because if you can beat him, we're going to try and beat one of these low price chalks. And shoot, I wouldn't mind beating the first 2. You know, we're against Think Big a little bit, and now if we can beat this one, then you're starting off pretty good on a pick 5 that might pay then. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's a fait accompli that he wins this race.
I agree, and we can't talk about every horse, guys, with 5 people. And I know Mibago is a speed horse that Charlie likes a little bit, that ran pretty well last time and could give people a lot of trouble on the front end, especially if the track is playing front end speed like it seemed to be a little bit on both surfaces today. Let's go ahead to the next race, guys. The next race is one hell of a race. I mean, every year I love this race. Last year it was an absolute barn burner, if you remember the Woody Stevens last year, and this year is absolutely no different. It's a big field. It's race 11, the 3rd leg of the all stakes pick 5 that ends in the Belmont. This is a $500,000 race, 7 furlongs. Of course, restrict for the 3-year-olds. There is a ton of early speed in this race, as there usually is. Look how wide open the board is. The favorite is the number 10, Chancellor McPatrick, finally turning back in distance to 1 turn for Chad and Flavian at 4-1. Let's see who we're going on the screen. The 3 people that started the show. I'm going 4-7-10. Pete is going 10-7-5, and Charlie's going 1-4-10. Again, we will get actually let's start with Paul and Ryan. Paul, let's start with you first. Please give your top 3 so people will know what you like here and your opinions on the Woody Stevens, Paul.
I have 10-7. I am on the Chancellor Redemption Tour bandwagon and really not thrilled about having to have him be the favorite, to be honest with you.
Is it as simple as just turns back in distance is what he's always wanted to do? I think the answer to that is yes and yes, but my concern is twofold, Paul. Number one is I'm really not so sure how good he is. I don't know if he's now, you could say, well, he hasn't progressed since his 2-year-old season because he's been going the wrong distance. I get that, but this is a very good field, and he's also going to be. He might be less than 4-1. He could be 7-2, 3-1, Paul. Yep. And I have no reason to take this horse against this field at those odds.
I can't argue. As I said, I like him, but I was kind of surprised to see, he was the favorite. But, he's still living off that 2-year-old reputation. But, we hope he's not living off it when he's 5.
Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt. I mean, Flavian should work out a good trip, though. Blinkers off. Do you read? He was blinkers off before the last 2 starts. They've been, I just don't like when Chad is when he's messing with blinkers. People might bring up Sierra Leone. That was a different situation because Sierra Leone, once he had blinkers on, he stayed with blinkers for a very long time. There's just, I don't know. I think a lot of people would expect me to pick this horse on top and love this horse. For some reason, Ryan, I'm not sold. I guess I'm soured by his 2-turn efforts at his Derby Fever syndrome, but I mean, he can win, but I don't know. What are your thoughts here, Ryan?
Yeah, this is my top pick. I went 10, 11, 1 in here.
Okay,
I
10,
mean,
11, 1.
I'm with Paul. I don't love that he's the 4-1 favorite. I was hoping to get maybe a little bit better and then maybe have him get bet down to 4-1 because I think he's probably going to get bet down to 3-1, 7-2, and I wouldn't put a win bet on him by any means. But we see this a lot from Chad Brown, where he has a really talented 2-year-old who is excellent around one turn. Derby fever hits the 3-year-old season, and they stretch him around 2 turns. And they eventually end up cutting him back. This happened last year with Domestic Product. They cut him back. He ended up being a lot better around 1 turn than he was around 2. He's had others in the past. I know we were talking about this in the group chat. I think Ways and Means was another of them. I'm blanking on the other name, but
Jack Christopher was the one.
Jack Christopher, thank you. Does this a lot. This is a move that is not, uncommon, I guess, for Chad and his top 3-year-olds, because you have to try him around 2 turns. You have to see what they got, and it's not like he threw in the towel right away. So yeah, I like the cutback. He's 3rd off the bench. He's gonna have he's gonna be making that late run, and he's gonna get more than enough pace in here. So if you're able to make up ground on this racetrack, he is going to be the one that's going to catch everybody. And if I remember correctly, the past couple Woody Stevens, they don't really come home that fast. It is just like a slugfest to the wire, and some of those horses start to chug. So I think Chancer McPatrick is the one with the best closing kick, so I like him. Gate to Wire is just the other horse I could see coming from off the pace, dropping out of a couple nice graded stakes efforts. Also, I think better around 1 turn. I know the Swale Stakes, he got just the dream setup when the 2 favorites went at each other, the two favorites went at each other going sub 44 for 7 furlongs. I mean, that is beyond a suicidal pace, even at the Gulfstream Speedway. But I thought Gate to Wire, maybe second off the bench, could show a little something, gets blinkers off. I don't know how much I look into that, but just another one that's going to be closing late.
Hey, Howard, can I make – go ahead. I was just saying, can I make one point about Chancer real quick before we move on? The one thing I like, you talked about the blinkers off. You wonder if they put the blinkers on to try and get him a little bit more into the race. He might be one of those horses who just going shorter. Let's just make him his 1-run closer like he's supposed to. Let's keep him in the back. Let's play off the pace. And then let's do that instead of trying to get him in the mix and maybe sap some of that closing kick. And the last thing, to Ryan's point, Chad Brown, 4 for 9 wins, 7 for 9 in the money with route to sprints in grade 1 races on dirt. So this is something he's very comfortable with. So I think there's a lot of signs pointing there. But Howard, I'm with you. The one thing I worried about is what if he just isn't good? And then all this stuff doesn't mean anything, but I guess we'll see on Saturday.
I have a few
notes. Pete Paul doesn't cash, and that's happened before.
Well, it's not the first time we don't cash. I mean, we've done that once or twice in our lives.
I have a few notes that I want to mention. First of all, Gate to Wire is one of my long shot plays of the day. I don't think he's completely impossible to win the damn thing. I know I don't have him in my top 3. He's been working, by the way, with Disruptor, a very talented Pletcher, and Crudo, by the way, in his last work. That's Gate to Wire, just to let everyone know. The other thing about the previous race, the Pennine Ridge, Pete, AP Kids come out of a race where there were 4 next out winners, just to let you know, and was the workmate of Mindframe on April 26th. Now, Mindframe did go by him pretty easily. I watched the work. I really deep dive for this show and for Saturdays, I usually do. But I do want to mention that AP Kid was a workmate of Mindframe, although Mindframe went by him pretty easily, as he should. Charlie, the one has been mentioned already a few times in the last few minutes, and I'll tell you what, Big Truz is going to have to run the race of his life, but Big Truz is very talented and ran just fine against my top choice in here, Patch Adams. I don't love the rail in this race at all, but you're definitely getting a price on a horse that is very talented for Lynch and Rosario, 10-1 morning line.
Yeah, look, this is a horse, obviously, that I've been a massive fan of since his debut when we were there in Keeneland. I wanted to take a shot. He's working lights out in the mornings. He's got 2 bullet works in a row. I thought his debut was incredibly impressive and professional. He dusted that field, and I think there's some nice horses in that race that'll come back good in his debut. Then after that, he went toe-to-toe with Patch Adams, and I thought both of them ran huge races. And, I mean, I think just objectively with him only having 2 races in his career, I think you can make the argument that he has as big of a chance as any horse in this field to take a step up. I mean, I think he has the most room for improvement. It would not surprise me if he has a big step up. And quite honestly, I would push back a little. I don't think he needs to run the race of his life to win this race. I think he obviously has to run a career best effort, but he ran a 91 and the horse who he lost to narrowly and Patch Adams ran a 95. You look at some of these others and, a mid to high 90 fits in this spot against a lot of these others. Now, yes, obviously he's probably going to have to run a near 100, but maybe I also just see Big Trust as a horse who can end up running, a 98, 99 and win this and still come back and top that effort at some point. I think he has an incredibly bright future. I love that they're throwing him straight into the deep end here. He's tactical. I think he'll set a nice stalking trip. He's going to have plenty of pace to work with. I'd say my two concerns, like you said, are the rail as well as I don't like that he doesn't have Luis Saez here. I get why Luis left and it sucks, but I really wish he could have had Luis instead of Joel Rosario. But yeah, I think he sits a nice stalking trip. And visually, when I watched his race between him and Patch Adams, I thought the two of them ran as impressive as a race as anybody in this field. And I mean, I feel like for a lot of these others we've talked about, I have concerns. I know a lot of people here have shown love for Gate to Wire. I'm usually right about Gulfstream horses, and I've just never seen it with him. Chancer, again, I know he loves it here, but he's a horse I've always thought has been criminally overrated in his career. Now, granted, he's getting a dream setup, but I think if he didn't get this dream setup, he wouldn't even be remotely worth a look, and he's going to be overpriced. I think this is a race that's so wide open, and you need to look for value here. I'm going to take a chance with Big Trust.
Pete and Paul, I loved when we get to throw poo-poo with the younger guys. Isn't a career best effort a race of his life? Just want to throw. Isn't that the same
I
thing,
was going to say that, but I
so
didn't
if he's going to run the race of his life,
it's the race of his life up until now.
Well, yeah. See, that's what I was trying to understand.
Tell me, everyone at home, I don't get it. Go ahead, Charlie.
No, because what I was trying to get clarification of is I didn't know if you meant the race of his life is in literally the best effort of his entire career, or if you just meant up to date. That's because what I'm saying is that he's only 3 years old. It's only his first year start. I think he can still
up to this point.
He's saying when he wins the Breeders' Cup Sprint, that's going to be the race of his life.
Thank you. See,
right,
Pete,
Charlie?
I know what you mean, Charlie.
Yeah.
Pete, very interesting here. You're going to Chancer also, and I'll talk about my horse in a second. There's two Bafferts here. Blinkers on for Madacat Road, the number 2. Blinkers off for Citizen Bull. Pete, does that automatically tell you that just Madacat's a dead send and they're going to try to rate Citizen Bull? I mean, that'd be the amateurish thought process. But I watched Citizen Bull's last 2 works. They've been fine. He goes by horses, but he doesn't sustain it. I'm not convinced that Citizen Bull can lay off horses and go by. Even on a turn back, I'm just completely, and it has nothing to do with the Derby, although I hated the ride by Garcia. We're not going to get into that again. I'm not convinced on either one of these Bafferts. I'm not using either one. If Baffert wins this race, I'm just going to lose, Pete. That's just my opinion.
No, I like Citizen Bull, and I'm a Citizen Bull apologist. So I figured in a race where I had every horse, basically, as I was telling you guys in our group text yesterday, there was only one horse that I basically threw out, and that's the 6, who now is probably going to win. But I just liked Citizen. I like Citizen Bull as a horse, so I'm hoping this is the thing. This is the move that sort of straightens him out. Let's cut him back, which I thought he could use. And I had those crazy stats on Baffert. Baffert, 41% first-time blinkers off in dirt sprints, and 4 for 6 wins, 6 for 6 in the money, first-time blinkers off in stakes dirt sprints. So Baffert's good with this move. I don't know if the horse is good enough. I just like him and hope that he runs well because I'd like to see him back in the mix again.
Let me go through my top picks, guys, and then I'll close it out with anyone that wants to say anything. This is a soft pick. Remember when Patch Adams was like, this horse is going to win the Derby? He was the bee's knees after his November 30th race, and I liked him too. He tried to go 2 turns. He's not a 2-turn horse. He got back to what he wanted to do last time, guys. Now, that was the second to last race, I think, on Derby night, as it ended up being. It was a relatively slow early pace, but that was a very, very good field. It had Big Truz. He beat Big Truz. Multiverse is a nice horse. I just have a feeling, guys, that Patch Adams is coming to a big race. I think he's going to sit a fantastic trip off of the 2 and the 3. I think he can pass horses, and I see him, guys, getting a very similar trip to the number 7, who I like also, Colloquial. I think they both don't need the lead. They both can be tactical, and they both can pass horses. And number 7, Colloquial, guys, has been off longer than a lot of these others, which I actually like. George Weaver said today on the Fox broadcast he's coming to a big race. I think Colloquial is super talented. His numbers fit. So I'm going with 2 horses, guys, that I feel are going to sit just off the pace, that have a lot of talent, and have a big shot. I just am a little bit against chance here. I could be wrong. Anyone on the screen, any final thoughts on a horse we didn't talk about or anything you want to add to what I said?
Hey, real quick, Howard, on colloquial, you didn't show and you don't need to, but one thing that I know you and I like looking at, and it's not on the screen, is people might look and say he's got an 88 buyer in the Lafayette. That doesn't match up. If you look at the time form gave him 120, which again that could be around 100 buyer. And again, this depends on which one you trust, but that difference there just could mean that maybe that race was better than it looks on the buyer scale. And if buyer is the number you use, maybe you'd be a little down. But if you like time form, maybe you upgrade the horse a little bit.
Well, the reason why is if they were 3 across the track in a 22 and 44 and change,
Yeah.
and he still won. So that's why the time form, ladies and gentlemen, number is better than the buyer, because the buyer's just the raw number, but they gave him extra credit, Pete, and everyone else for this. Look, he's battling. Now, obviously, this field's better. He's facing Saturday, but look at this, 22 and 3. I mean, sub 45 is moving at Keeneland. He's the 2 on the inside here, colloquial, and he fought off all challengers and still went on to win. This is a very, very serious horse here. So I'm glad I'm going to stop it right there. I'm glad you brought that up, Pete, when you see that discrepancy in the figs. Anyone else? And then we'll move on to the Manhattan.
I commented in the chat. I won't go into it, but I just said I don't think Neo Equus is impossible in this race. Like I genuinely do believe that he could fit in this, and this is more the distance that he would want.
I'm not going to argue with almost any horse in here. And this is not Baffert hate for people that are just watching and listening. I just don't like the Bafferts in this race.
I agree.
We have almost 400 people watching right now. Greatly appreciate it. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell on YouTube. Smash the like button underneath the video player. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we love all the comments because there are a ton of them. I'm getting to as many as I can. All right, let's get on to the Manhattan. We're going to go a little long with our show tonight. That's all good. We're talking about the freaking Belmont Stakes Pick 5 with mega grade 1 races, so we got time to talk about it. I have a pretty strong opinion of the Manhattan, and my opinion is with a horse that I frankly have not liked a lot recently, but I do like quite a bit on Saturday. Let's go with our picks. I'm going in the Manhattan. Sorry, let me go ahead and bring up the field. The Manhattan is, of course, grade 1. It's on the turf. It is 1 mile and 3/16 based on the configuration of Saratoga. It's usually 1.25 miles. $1 million is the purse. It's a field of 9. Spirit of St. Louis, number 6, is the favorite. Chad and Franco. Miguel Clement's got 3. Chad only has Spirit of St. Louis. You got Farbridge in here. I mean, this is a very nice field. No Euros, which I find interesting. I was going to ask Paul about the lack of Godolphin runners this summer when we have a chance, Paul, if you remind me of that. But the one of my favorite is Spirit of St. Louis. I'm going 265. Pete's going 296. And Charlie's going 952. I'm going to go first, guys, here. Integration. This is a horse that I've been against the last few times, but Pete, I'm assuming you feel the same way. I think he's had excuses in his last 2. Unless he's regressing, which is possible. He's 5 now. Unless he's just not the same, I think he's had excuses. 2 back, he faced Carl Spackler, who's going to be in Europe now and then Australia. 1 mile is not what he wants at all, in my opinion. Pete, he ran perfectly fine there. The bet, was a grade 1. He ran fine. The last time, I'm not going to show the trip because it's Churchill and etc. I highly recommend everyone very carefully watch the NBC replay with the drone feed, because Frankie Dettori did not give a good ride on integration. He was on the rail. I'm not sure the rail was very good on the turf that weekend anyway, as I was there along with Matt Miller and Patrick Kunzel and Matt's wonderful wife, Beth. Then he tipped off into the 2-hole, Pete, and he was in between horses for a long time. And there's a point on the turn where he had to shove to keep his position. And he was asking, and that took a lot of energy out of integration. And then twice in the stretch, it looked like he was trying to find a hole, and it wasn't there. It was very subtly, Pete, in my opinion, a disastrous trip. And it doesn't.
Oh, I didn't even think it was. I just thought the ride was so awful. I didn't even think there was any subtlety.
Either way, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like the ride. The short comments don't really say how bad it was, but I don't think it was good at all. He gets back to firm turf in theory, might not be, but most importantly, Pete, he gets back to two things: a distance that he wants and Flava Flav. He gets Flavian Pratt. I think that's a major, major upgrade. I'm usually against integration recently. I love him on Saturday. I'm hoping to get about 4-1. Go ahead, Pete, and then we'll talk about. We'll go to Charlie to talk about Farbridge.
Yeah, I don't have anything to really add. I agree with everything you said. I'm not usually an integration guy either, and I was surprised when I landed on him in this race. But it was sort of all those things where I think maybe you might be getting a little bit of value, although having Pratt usually sucks that value out. But I think you might be getting a little bit more value just because that last race doesn't look great. But I do think there's been excuses, and I'm looking for the trip 4 back where Pratt. I know that was against a weaker field, obviously.
Exactly.
But just from a trip perspective, I think that's more the trip that we can get, and I think Pratt will put this horse in the right position.
And Noah Maher, host of Pacific Horse Players. Excuse me, Noah. Prefer an outside trip for integration, but distancing is perfect. Some competent piloting might help too. Whoa. Wow. Nicely.
We don't like any anti-Italian stuff on here, but Dettori hasn't exactly been. Yeah,
look, we got to.
Oh, I'll do it. If we're not, if he does, I'll do it. If nobody else will.
Oh, Charlie, we know how you feel. You're look, not the biggest fan. Let's go to the number 9, Farbridge. Farbridge is an interesting horse, Charlie, because he's been very good in his last 2. Hasn't faced much, to be very honest. Really, really likes the rail. If Rosario can get to the rail, I would upgrade him a lot. But if he's not on the rail for whatever reason, he's not nearly as good. It's not a ground saving thing. It's like the horse just feels comfortable running on the rail for some reason and not as comfortable amongst horses or having horses to his inside. I don't know why. I have nothing against this horse. I just think there's others that interest me. You disagree. You like him to win his 3rd in a row here.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think this is a tough race. I was actually pretty torn between go with the 9 or 5 on top. And when we get to best bets later, that'll be a little more clear. But look, Farbridge hasn't done anything wrong. Came back off a pretty decent layoff and won. Agreed. Obviously didn't face much, although did face corruption. Was back in this race. And then last time out, second time off the layoff, took, a decent step forward. Granted, I think it could have been better because if you watch the replay, he was pretty much just handwritten the entire time once he got by Anglophile. I think he could have won by more, but Joel just knew what he had and rather just save the horse. But I just think he can build off it. I like that it's 3rd off the layoff for Clement. I like that a lot. I think he's going to take another step forward. I also like the bullet work, minute flat at Saratoga over the turf. I think he's going to be in strong form. I like that Joel chose to stick on this one. I just think there's ultra consistency too from a figures perspective and just what you kind of just know what you're going to get from him. He's won half his starts, has been in the money, for 13 of his 16. So it's just an ultra consistent horse. And I know Noah, if he's still watching, would agree with me. Him and I are not the biggest fan of these marathon type longer turf races like this. We don't normally fare very well in them. So I'm just looking for consistency here. By no means is this one of my strongest picks here, but I just feel like in these kinds of races, and if anyone disagrees, you can push back. I feel like these are the kinds of races where you're just trying to find any sort of consistency and familiarity over the distance. These are not easy races.
Deterministic, guys, and Ryan and Paul, we're going to you next, is a horse that I know very well. I actually met Deterministic down at Payson, guys, when he was turning 3 because I loved his debut. In fact, Paul and Pete, we talked about his debut several times on the show. It was very impressive. He was sort of goofy last year, guys, but he's definitely got his act together now. He's shown a lot of early speed, which I like. He's absolutely a wire threat. In my personal opinion, I think the 7 Tucson, number 8 Corruption, who actually only lost to Farbridge by a neck to back, who's not completely impossible in here, might just give a little too much pressure up front to a Deterministic. But I just want to mention, I think Deterministic is a very nice horse and getting better. Paul, let's go to you, and then Ryan, I'll let you guys just talk. I won't interrupt. Who do you like, Paul, in the Fantastic Manhattan?
I have 256 because I want to enforce the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. That would be betting integration. So I'm going to give it one more shot. He knocked me out of the Keeneland contest 2 races back, and I agree with everything you guys said. I had to go back and watch it even that day, Howard, because you look at it and say, well, he finished 7th. How much could the trip have hurt him? Well, You go back, as you point out very astutely, as usually. It wasn't one instance. I just think there were multiple times in the race where there were traffic problems. It's Pete. It's those damn Italian jockeys. You know that the Italian cars don't have mirrors. What's behind me? Not important.
We got those little Fiats that they go through the little tight alleys, Paul. We're used to tight spaces. We're used to the tight spaces, so we try and just bulge our way through every time.
Charlie was just in Italy. He could talk about the traffic.
Yeah, Charlie, tell him. They drive like nuts, right?
Depends the departure, and I will tell you, when I was in Lake Como, that was the most. I said that they could be Formula One drivers. They on roads that can only fit one car, they are floor on the gas, despite there being a frail railing separating them, and ended up in the lake. And when we had to take our Uber ride back, my mom was terrified. My dad and I were having the time of our lives. It felt like. For reference, we did a test drive on an F1 track and had a professional guy drive us, and he didn't go as crazy as this random Uber driver woman did. It was insane. She took every turn in the pitch black like there wasn't a chance of her crashing into oncoming traffic the other way. My mom looked down and was fearing for her life. But, yeah, they drive pretty crazy there.
Look at Charlie dropping a little Lake Como on everyone. Fancy schmancy. I believe Mr. Clooney.
He was at Clooney's house. Yeah, you were hanging at Clooney's. Como. Yeah.
Ryan, thanks for your patience, man. We got a full house plus one here tonight. Who do you like in the Manhattan, sir?
All good. I wasn't too creative on top. Spirit of St. Louis is a horse that I've been a big fan of pretty much his whole career. Loved him, obviously, in all the state bred competition, but then got to face Open. He's now a dual grade 1 winner. He's done all the right things this year, even as a 6-year-old. He's going to stretch out. I don't know that I would love him at 1.25 miles, but the 1 3/16 I don't think is that big of a stretch from how he's won those 1 1/8 races. He's going to get the setup. The 2-back effort you can excuse because it was against the bias when they took the rail down at Fairgrounds. The inside was gold. This horse was on the outside. We've seen those runners come back time and again and run really well. So Spirit of St. Louis has to be my pick. There's a decent amount of speed in a race like this that you don't typically see. Typically, it looks like there's only 1 or 2, but I think there's a handful, maybe a small handful that could go to the lead just depending on kind of overall jockey tactics. So I think either way, it's going to set up really well for Spirit of St. Louis. He hasn't always needed fast paces to close into. He's closed into some slow ones, so that's not super creative. I like Highway Robber a little bit in second. I thought that effort coming back from Maidan was encouraging is the word I'm looking for. In the Turf Classic, only losing by a length. We see a lot of times they come back from that ship and they maybe don't handle it well. So to see him, bounce back in relative fashion. Christian Torres is a competent enough rider, so he's not going to discourage me at all there. And then the last one I have is the one on the rail, Endlessly for Michael McCarthy, Umberto Rispoli. A little West Coast love. I know it's a stretch. I'm aware of that. He's going to need to take a huge step up. I know the speed figure was light last time out, and he's going to have to run the race of his life in order to win this one. However, that was off the bench from about 9 months. He closed into a slow pace, which, again, I know Cabo Spirit and King of Gosford would be 50-1 and 40-1 in this race, and that's why Endlessly is 20-1 on the morning line. But I think he's going to sit a decent trip. I think he has a chance to round out the try, probably more likely the super. Just one I wanted to give a kind of look to. I love when McCarthy stretches these runners out even farther on the turf. They seem to only get better. And with the kind of conditioning he puts into these horses, there's no issue of that horse getting the distance.
I will say it's a extremely bold spot for McCarthy to throw this one into this field, but a little shout out for the West Coast horses. Before we get into the Belmont, 2 quick things, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you very much for watching as we'll discuss the last race here and then give our best bets. And if Paul has a positive or negative rant since he's here. Paul and Ryan, are you good on time for another 10, 15 minutes or are you need to go? You're both good? Okay, awesome. First of all, we have a show on YouTube right now for tomorrow. So again, we're filming Wednesday night. If you want information on the Thursday late pick 5 with 2 stakes, we have a tape show that we put up last night. Go to our YouTube channel and check out that in the Picks and Ponies section. And then since we're leading into the Belmont here, we have already several thousand views of our Belmont Stakes only preview that we put out nice and early this week on Tuesday, early in the day yesterday. So we are going to talk about the Belmont here, obviously, maybe not quite as long as we normally would, because we did a whole 40-minute show on just the Belmont itself, but we wanted to give everyone a chance to give their opinions that are here on the screen, because no one on this screen, I don't believe, was part of that show, which is why I did it this way. Paul, you were, I'm sorry. So.
And Charlie was on. So basically, almost everyone on the screen was on the show.
Well, you know what? Well, that's because Paul and Charlie weren't originally going to be on this show. So anyway, it's all good. Listen, it's been a long week, guys. Already, it's only Wednesday. All right, the Belmont Stakes, the third leg, the third jewel of the Triple Crown. All of the protagonists are there. You got Sovereignty, you got Journalism, you got Baeza, you got some fresh faces in Crudo, you got Rodriguez, who missed the Derby. You got Hill Road from the rail, who's a closer for Chad. It's a field of 8, but it's an interesting field, and it's a completely loaded field. I don't know anyone that's a horse racing fan in the United States, or even for that matter, across the world, that is not interested in race 13. The Belmont Stakes, $2 million. Of course, it's 1.25 miles over Saratoga's surfaces. Of course, it's restricted for 3-year-olds. There's the field. You got morning line favorite of Journalism at 8-5. Sovereignty's 2-1. Baeza 4-1 morning line, and then Rodriguez at 6-1 for Baffert and Smith. Some of you might already know our picks, but again, we have a ton of people watching that have not seen our show that we did earlier this week. I am going with Baeza. I'm going 6-7. Pete is going 7-1-2. And Charlie is going 2-6-7. Let's just get Paul and Ryan. Just only your top 3, and then we'll just let everyone talk about the Belmont for a minute or two. Paul, who are your top 3, please, in the Belmont?
See Charlie's picks for more information. 2-6-7.
And Ryan, what are your top 3?
2-7-1.
2-7-1. Very similar to Pete. Okay. I'm just going to go in order of what we see on the screen. Then we'll go Pete, Charlie, and then we'll go Ryan and Paul. Pete, the Belmont Stakes, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, this is going to sound stupid for a handicapping show, but I don't even think you can really handicap the top 3 in this race. I think it's all going to come down to trip. I think people will say, "Hey, I had the winner, and that's great for you," but I think it's a crapshoot. I went with Journalism because I think he's super sharp right now. He's looked great on the track. If he repeats that last performance, I think he can win. And I think tactically he should be, unless Rispoli gets into a little trouble again, I think tactically he can get the jump on Sovereignty. Baeza, he might have to run down depending on how the trips go. But I think Journalism, at least he'll get second run maybe at the leaders, and then will hopefully be good enough to pull away and hold off Sovereignty. But if it goes the other way, like these guys are going to talk about, and Sovereignty does it or Baeza does it, I think it's about even all 3 ways.
Pete, he's looked great all week, apparently. Any concern about the third quick turnaround in, just over a month with Journalism?
I mean, I think the concern you have is, I think he'll run his race. I think he looks sharp enough to where I don't have concerns that he's coming in at top form. The worry you have is maybe that last 8th, that last 16th, the 5 weeks catches up to him and he gets run down, or he can't run somebody down because he just loses that last little inch of energy that he needs to beat such a deep field. That's where I think. So I don't think you'll know until sort of that last 16th, and by that point it's too late.
Charlie, you've had some nice success in these Triple Crown races recently. I know you liked Mage 2 years ago. You liked Sovereignty in the Derby. This year, you were hoping your buddy Sandman could come through for you, but he's skipping this race, which actually I think is a good idea. He needs a little more time to develop. You're coming back to Sovereignty, the Derby winner, second in the Florida Derby, won the Fountain of Youth, is already won over $3.6 million.
Yeah, no, I like Journalism in the Preakness, but I'm not going back to him here. Look, Sovereignty is a horse that I have been all over from the jump. Bet him in his Saratoga debut, and he flew like a train and seemed to like the course, but just obviously wasn't going to be a sprinter. I thought he was the best in his class in the jump, but was never going to take that 18-1. And then I talked about it all leading up into the Derby, how I always thought that Godolphin and Bill Mott were just doing a tremendous job with this horse and strategically placing him better than just about any other ownership group and trainer group were doing with their horse. Every single move just seemed so smart and calculated to put Sovereignty in the best possible position to win. And I just think he's constantly proved people wrong. You look in the Fountain of Youth and all of the media, all of this about how he's working, all the comments was just that he wasn't going to really show up that day. Fortunately for me, I got him at over 3-1, which I shouldn't have gotten. But again, because of that, ends up getting the job done. Then comes back in the Florida Derby, and what was very clearly just a race to be a filler and just, keep him in shape and not get too much out of him, and runs a decent second in a race where Japan Street ran amazing, but had, got the right setup already, had the jump on him, and a track that's hard to close on. I know all too well from my adopted home track. He still ran a nice second. And then in the Derby, I thought, what I really liked about this year's Derby was I truly thought the three best horses ran 1, 2, 3. This wasn't a Mystic Dan year where he got a dream trip, dream everything, and he's not that good of a horse, and it worked out. We truly just saw the three best animals, and Sovereignty looked the best of them all. And what really excites me about him going into this spot is the fact that he has that really solid bullet work for a horse who's never really worked well in the mornings. And that's never bothered me in the past, but I think the fact that now he's working really well as well, that is one run at Saratoga. I get people are saying, well, at Churchill, he had that great form already and had that big win, so we knew he liked that track. I would argue he liked Saratoga too. He was flying like a truck and looked just fine, just he's not a 6 furlong horse. So I think he's going to be in better shape than any horse in this field. I think he's going to be in the shape of his life, the form of his life, and I think he's going to run even better than the Derby. And the problem is, I think if and when he does that, I don't think anyone in this field can match that effort.
I think you make some excellent points. I got to bring up something from Paul, from our good friend Paul, who's on the show right now, making a deal with Matt Miller. So Paul's going to take Sovereignty, $100 to make a wish. If Paul wins, $100 to charity of your choice. If Matt wins, I'm sure both charities will end up with $200. But it's a fun exercise. Wow, hold on a sec. We got to put these guys. Thank Paul. Excellent. We have a little side bet where no one will be a loser because a charity will win. Paul and Matt. That's very nice, Paul. Nice job. I appreciate that. We know that you like Sovereignty for obvious reasons, and we'll let you talk about him in just a moment. I did want to bring that back up. Okay. So Charlie's going with Sovereignty. I think he might be up a little bit closer, ladies and gentlemen, that he has been. He's been working very well in the mornings, and I just don't think they want to be too far back in this race. Paul, we know you like Sovereignty. Charlie just talked about it. Feel free to talk about Sovereignty. I brought up the pace projector. Do you agree that he might be up a little bit closer? He's not going to be as far back as he was in the Derby, obviously. They've got
it's not on the screen, Howard.
They don't have Rodriguez on top. They've actually got Crudo on top. But I think we talked about this earlier this week. We all sort of think Rodriguez is going to be on a dead center. He'll probably have the lead. Sovereignty, 5 or 6 back, I think would be ideal. No more than that, Paul, unless they're flying.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think he'll be a little. I hope, especially from the inside, you would think that Junior is going to be a little more forward. I'll make it. I did get a chance to talk to him a little bit today, but it was after he got beaten on 1-5 shots, so I didn't feel it was the time to ask questions about other races. Wasn't really that thrilled about that loss. Yeah, I think he would be. And, we talked about it a lot on the Belmont show. I have zero bad to say about journalism. I do think that the 2 races in 5 weeks versus 3 races in 5 weeks is a real thing. And I think Sovereignty ran the better race in the Derby, as Charlie said, by just a little. And, when Mott points to a race, i.e. the Derby, he's very tough. And he obviously made it clear he wasn't thinking about the Preakness win, lose, or draw, which means this would be the race he was pointing to. So I think, as you said, they're all here. The gang's all here. Really looking forward to the race.
Ryan, your thoughts on the Belmont Stakes? You're actually not going to be there. I think you're actually flying home Friday, correct? Unfortunately for you, but your thoughts on this year's Belmont?
Yeah, I have to leave the Belmont Stakes Festival a little early, miss the actual Belmont Stakes, but I got my ABR show on Saturday to host it. I wouldn't be able to be at the track anyway, so that's all right. Yeah, Sovereignty and journalism, pretty much 1A, 1B. I'm leaning Sovereignty, and I have to because Paul mentioned it. Belmont has circled this date on the calendar, and that is the most dangerous angle in all of racing. Belmont can have a horse ready for his A+ effort if he has that date in mind. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 isn't because I think that the Preakness took a lot out of journalism. I think he loves the fight. I think he loves to, I don't know about be in trouble, but he loves to have another horse next to him and just run by him. And, he loves to win, do his job. So I just think Sovereignty beat him. at the Derby, and he beat him fair and square. They had pretty much the entire length of the stretch to battle it out, and it wasn't a battle for very long. Sovereignty went on by. He comes in here on another, clear target point. But the horse I want to round out the tries, the One Hill Road, has been closing into some slow paces pretty much since he came over here. 3 races back in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was really the only one that made up ground in the Juvenile with that tepid pace because Citizen Bull and Gaming decided to just tag team their way around. And then much like the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Owen Almighty and whoever IRAD was on that day decided to play, brother ball. And Tampa Bay Derby was also a slow pace where Hill Road was able to close. And then in the Peter Pan, Flavien Prat got aboard and this horse won. And that wasn't flying pace by any means. Second off the bench, though, I know the Chad Brown Barn's high on this. Obviously, IRAD Ortiz taking over for Flavien Prat is not any sort of a negative any way you look at it. I think this horse is just going to get a really nice trip, and this horse is going to close and round out the try. I have not loved that Baeza has kind of looked a little bit light. Again, I'm not an expert by any means, but he does he doesn't look as muscular and as imposing as journalism and Sovereignty and even Rodriguez, who I saw this morning. He looked a little bit better. Baeza just looks a little small. Again, I'm no expert. You can take that with a grain of salt, but I want to get creative here. I don't want to, 276 is very, or 762 or whatever. Yeah, any combination of those 3 is very likely. I want to get a little creative and spice things up with Hill Road. So I went with the 1 and 3rd, thinking that he can spice it up a bit.
I know Pete likes Hill Road a little bit. To me, Hill Road's more of a Travers horse at this point. I just think he needs to get faster. He needs more time to develop. I hear what you guys are saying. I just think the other closers are better. That's interesting that you said about Baeza, who apparently has been looking really good in the morning, but might be a little more athletic and maybe not as small or a little smaller size-wise. I hope he's smaller, Ryan, and the reason is because they need to fit a lot of people in that winner's circle when he wins the Belmont Stakes. I really, really like Baeza. I talked about it on my show earlier this week. I just think he sits a great trip, guys. I think his upside is better than anyone in this field. He's going to set a nice stalking trip just in behind. Flavien got a chance to ride him. He knows this horse now. I think Sheriff's is an excellent patient trainer. And maybe more importantly out of all those, and Pete, I agree, it's not like I'm coming up with some really cool handicap opinion because the top 3 are clearly the best. But I just think Baeza's, I know he's going to be 3rd choice here. I'm going to get the best price. And really, to me, he's as likely a winner as those other 2. So why not go with a bigger price? But other than that simplistic answer, I do think he's going to sit a great trip, and he's just got more upside. It's just going to be an unbelievable race, guys. We covered everyone pretty much. Crudo is the interesting speed horse entrant. There's another Pletcher that has no chance. You got Heart of Honor on the outside, and that is the entire field right there. Let's go ahead.
Hey,
Yep,
Charlie, you had something, Charlie?
Oh, all I was going to say, I was just surprised you didn't mention Howard. There's one other thing I think that's just really working for Baez, and that's why he's the one I'm losing sleep over that could beat Sovereignty for me, is his siblings have done pretty well in these, Triple Crown races, especially in the New York ones, considering he's really the Mage and Dornock. So they like these races.
We talked about Puka on our show also, and there's a feature on Puka on the Fox broadcast. Very quickly, no explanation, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to read off our best bets. Charlie is going to go to race 9. He's playing a daily double, 9-1. Those 2 horses. Who are those 2 horses, Charlie?
That's AG Bullet into Zulu Kingdom.
Okay, and then you're also playing a race 12 double, 5-9 with 2, and those horses are?
Deterministic and Farbridge, yes, into Sovereignty.
Sovereignty, exactly. Pete's gonna go to race 10, play dollar pick 3, 1, 2, 4 with 5, 7, 10 with 2, 9. That's an $18 play, and then he's gonna put a win bet in race 11 on the 10. That is the Woody Stevens Euro with Chancer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Pete?
Yep. That's it. And no explanation needed in the pick 3. Just sort of top choices.
Okay. And my best bet, I'm going to race 8, which is actually hold on, let me make sure that's right. Yeah, I know that's outside.
You're going
yeah,
with
so
semicolon, and race 8? Is your
Yeah,
top
race 8
choice? I
actually
like that one.
outside.
Yeah,
It's
blinkers
actually
are
out-
off, semicolon.
Yeah.
One blinker, Paul. That's why he's got the.
It's called a winker.
It's actually outside. It's the Met Mile, which is an unbelievable race, and we do have a show coming up that's taped that will be on YouTube. I think later tonight. Check it out. That covers some of the undercard races. But I think Just a Touch is actually quite interesting in the Met Mile. It's crazy when you look at that race. You have to think of a top 3, meaning you're going to leave either Just a Touch, White Barrio, Fierceness, or Raging Torrent out of your top 3. It's that kind of race. But I think Just a Touch the 4 is interesting. I'm going to use him with Fierceness in a Dutch Exacta. Obviously, the other 2 can absolutely win that race, White Barrier or Raging Torrent. And then race 12, guys, I'm going to go 2-6. That's the Manhattan. I'm going to go 2-6 Integration and or Spear in St. Louis into Baeza. I think that could pay real nice. And I'm playing in a big contest this weekend through Naira Bets. If I'm alive and I need to make a play there, I'm going to do something similar to that. Paul, we're going to let you end the show because you're here tonight with either a positive or negative rant, my friend. Unless you have nothing at all to say, we can end the show. Paul, do you want to say anything relatively quickly?
I just want to follow up. You allowed me to talk about the Clement situation. And, in that last race, it looked like the 1 was going to get up. And the 1 was a horse called Sir Oscar, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Trained by Graham Motion. So as I was sitting there in between bites of ravioli, I said, I wonder how Graham Motion feels about losing this race to Miguel Clement. So I texted him and he called me, and I took the call from the dining room of Pinnell's. And as you would expect from the type of guy he is, he said, it's really hard to win a race at Saratoga. He said, but I couldn't imagine being as happy after a loss as I was after that race. He said, it's ironic. He said, Christoph and I competed in a lot of these races, i.e. turf. And he said, he's just so sad that he's not around this year. But as you would expect from Graham Motion, who's, as I point out, those are 2 Hall of Fame level trainers right there. And he was happy to lose to Miguel. And I was happy not to cash my $10 1-4 exacta and give him Miguel the win.
Wow, that's a great story. Not only do we give handicapping, hopefully great advice to everyone at home, we get instant feedback from trainers and family members of the Clements, and just we try to bring it to you, ladies and gentlemen. I think tonight's show was a little bit longer, but it was excellent. And I want to thank everyone who's on the show tonight, the talent, because we had some last second changes and literally more than 500 people watching and listening live. We'll have thousands of people listening and watching throughout the week for this late pick 5 that ends with the Belmont on Saturday. There's a ton of wagers that people can bet in the next few days. Highly recommend you look at the betting menu because there's many different ways you can go. Ryan and Paul, special thanks to you guys for jumping on the show from Saratoga Springs, New York, and for my other co-hosts that are in the studio, so to speak, Pete Visco and Charlie Freeman, and of course Paul Howard and Ryan Anderson. This has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 412, an excellent edition of Picks and Ponies. Ladies and gentlemen, crush your bets on Belmont Stakes Day at Saratoga this Saturday. Good luck, everyone. Take care. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.